Hello everybody, Richard Owen here at Owen Automotive. Today we're back on my Junk E-Type engine, assembling the cylinder head. Yeah, but before we begin, have to make sure that everything is super clean. So yeah, clean the tappets, clean the valves, clean the springs, clean the ports, cleaned all the guides, really trying to keep that wear down to a minimum. So here's the process using the spring compressor tool. That gives us a little window in here to put the cotters in, and we'll do that for all 8 valves. And while we're doing that, make sure that we put assembly lube in. And one thing to note is these little neoprene seals in here. They're called a stem seal. I think these are a really good addition to any installation on the intake side. Okay, I'm going to try to show you guys the process. It's pretty tedious putting these cotters in. So the first thing I do is put in the spring seat. I'll go down in there. There we are. And neoprene seal because this is an intake valve. The camera's sort of in the way here, but oh, there it goes. Make sure I got the right valve. The valve guide and in through the seal. There she is. Now comes the double valve springs. There they are. And I think this is called the collar. Collar goes in. Now I'm going to compress them with the spring compressor tool. Okay, I got one of the cotters here on the end of a screwdriver with some grease to hold it in place. And now I can just drop it in there and kind of use the gravity of the spring compressor tool to hold it in place. There we are. So that's in place. Just get the second one in there now. Just have it on a magnet here. This is like surgery. Okay, now I got them both in there. They're kind of wild though, so just kind of push them down in place, but not too far. If they go too far, they won't seat. Okay, looking like it's going to seat if I let it go, so let's see what happens here. Just slowly give it a little wiggle as it comes up. And catch my tool. And there she is, wonderful. All right, got all the valves in here, except for one. I just wanted to pause on it and have a look at this valve seat. The reason being is I got some amazing comments in the last video. If you go back in the last video and you read the comments, there's just some gold in there. You guys have given so many tips and tricks. Thank you so much. It's really awesome. And most of the comments were directed at this valve seat and the way I ground it with a stone. Everybody was like, you gotta do a 3-angle grind. And yeah, I agree, 3 angle grind's better. What that means is doing a 30-degree grind, a 45-degree grind, and a 60-degree grind. It really lets you control how much of the valve touches the seat, and it helps for flow. But this being a budget Junk E-Type engine, I'm just doing it a cheap and simple way. It's kind of also keeps it in spec with what Jaguar, how they first envisioned this. They only had a single grind on these from new, and you're not going to get great flow anyways because this seat's kind of recessed down into the cylinder head, so you're not going to get a huge flow advantage from changing the valve grinds on this. All right, going to put the camshaft in. It's just sitting in there right now, and do the valve clearance, and that's done with these shims right here. Don't know if you got a focus, but yeah, different shims give you different valve clearances. It's kind of a trial and error. You put the shims in, measure your clearance, do some math, put what you think is the right shim in, measure again until you got them correct. All right, next is the tappets. Gonna put lots of assembly lube on there. This is one of the areas that's really nice for assembly lube. Okay, next the camshaft's going in. Gonna put assembly lube on the bearing surfaces. You better believe it. Got these two bolts in the end, that'll help me rotate it when we're doing the measurements. Got the camshaft caps going in. Just show you here if we can pull focus. There's a small number here in the corner, and that identifies where it goes on the cylinder head. Okay, that's it. That's all the hardware in place. I'm going to tighten it down and torque it down to spec because it does affect the clearance measurements. So I'll do that next. Hi, everybody. Now these two bolts on the end are used to rotate the camshaft. And really, you just should be feeling a little bit of pressure just fighting those valve springs. There you go. Works pretty good. You see, this is the way. Yeah, feels great. Good stuff. I'll show you how I do the measurement now. Okay, just testing the clearance on the back side of the lobe here. I can't even stick 5 thou in there. There's no clearance. So the next thing I'm gonna have to do is put in some shims that are smaller, maybe 10 thou smaller. And if that doesn't work, we're gonna have to grind these valves. So let's see what happens. Okay, put 90 thou shims all the way across. Gonna see what the clearance looks like here. Here's 5 thou. 5 thou goes under. 6. Oh, it's stuck at 6. So the 6 won't go in. That means it's 5 thou. That's totally in spec, which is awesome. 4 to 6 thou is spec for this engine. I'll just write 5 thou right above it here on the tape. That way I won't get confused. So there's no adjustment to do there. I'm going to retain that shim spacer. But if it was high or low, I would adjust the spacer accordingly. Okay, got all the clearances within spec. 6 thou, 5 thou, 6, 6, 6, 5 thou. That's great. Now one thing that I must do is release the tension on this camshaft because this is an interference engine. If I go ahead and start rotating the exhaust side, I'm going to bend a valve. So yeah, all these caps have to come off. And I'll just show you quickly where I'm getting all my shims from. I got a lot of shims here measured out in this little case, and that's fantastic. You'll see most of them are used. I don't mind reusing old shims. Just make sure that the worn side is up towards the tappet. Okay, got the cylinder head basically completely ready for the block. Couple tips here, don't use the lock washers until the very end, it'll eat the hardware. And another one is to always torque these down to 15 foot-pounds. That's the specification in the book. And when you're taking the measurement, you want to have these nuts at 15 foot-pounds. So once it was all set up, I was shimmed, I was happy. I used this camshaft tool, and it goes in the detent right here. And that gets it ready for top dead center. So make sure that detent is lined up with your tool here. And then I could tighten this camshaft down. I did the same thing with the intake side, made sure it was lined up, and tightened it down 15 foot-pounds all the way. And that way we know that this cylinder head is ready for top dead center. Time for paint. Yeah, I'm gonna paint this cylinder head base clear metallic gold. I use a special formula of gold. I'll show you what that is. I really like the base clear. I think it's the only way to do metallics. Unfortunately, that means urethane paint, so you have to stay safe. You have to wear your mask. You have to make sure your filters are new, and you wear this from when you mix the paint until you leave the shop. Yeah, nope, you have to do that. So one of my hacks is with this paint job is just to use these valve covers here, these old valve covers. They make it so I don't have to mask all this area, and they'll make a really nice line. So yeah, these valve covers, that's a nice touch. And if you really want tips and tricks on how to spray urethane paint, There's the Gunman, he has a YouTube channel. Go follow him, go see what he's all about. I learned almost everything about paint from the Gunman's YouTube channel. So yep, next thing I'm gonna do is douse this thing, clean it off with some wash. I use Worth brake cleaner, but anything like that will work. And then I'm gonna mask it off. So I'll get those two things done and I'll get back to you guys. All right guys, just about to mix up my paint. I'm gonna show you my line of scrimmage. Generally, I like to mask off all the sealing surfaces. So the plug that goes here and the tack drive there. Where the intake and exhaust manifolds sit, of course, mask those off. And just this polished surface here, just kind of drew a line all the way around, protect the polished surface. And for some reason, this area right here seems to get painted. You can even still see the original silver paint in there from when this was sprayed in probably '69. And one last little detail is just cover up the spark plug holes with some coins. I prefer to put my coins queen side up. Okay, I just put on the first layer of ultra thin epoxy. I like to keep it thin. It kind of shows the texture and details of the cylinder head, and it provides a roadmap too. What do I mean by that? You look down there at those nickels, they look kind of blotchy. Those are fish eyes. If you were to just top coat over those, you would definitely get a blotchy top coat, which is what you don't want. To overcome fish eyes, usually I just keep layering the thin layers of epoxy, and it'll cover them right up and let you put your top coat on. And this is kind of the practice I use for parts and engines. This isn't like what you would do on the outside of a car. So yeah, I'm gonna put the base on now. It's base gold. It goes on really thin as well. And I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, just having a look at myself spray this thing out. You can see I'm loading the paint into the gun. It's a DeVelvis GTI, a pretty high performance gun from England. And just getting it ready here. Get that cap on. Okay, just do a little bit of test spray on the table first. Make sure I like the levels. And yeah, she's good to go. So yeah, here I am spraying it really nice and even. The gun shoots it super even, and that's what you need with this base metallic, is a really nice even thin coat. And then you see these big long passes here. That would be totally impossible with an aerosol. The aerosol would be blotchy, and that would make metallic look absolutely hideous. You can kind of see my method here to paint the V. I get both sides of where the stud goes all the way across, and then I'll come all the way down. Again, using the really nice, beautiful, even flow of the DeVelvis. You can see my airflow is good. It's going right out the shop, and I'm spraying at night. There's nobody around. Nobody's gonna get any fumes. And then here I am. You can see I'm fully suited up. I highly recommend this. It keeps all the chemicals off your regular clothes, and it just keeps everything limited to the booth or the shop. Now look, I'm dancing there. Okay, 4 coats later, I'm happy. This gold, I put it on ultra thin, so it takes a little while to cover that white epoxy. So yeah, looking good. So what we have here is a base coat. Basically, I was spraying just solvent and pigment, and on top of this, I'm gonna put a clear coat. And yeah, that's really gonna transform this paint. You should see this is a custom formula I had made. It has gold flake in it, ultra fine gold flake, and you don't really see it until the clear coat's on. But unfortunately, the clear coat, that is the nastiest part of this process. It has the worst chemicals. So I am going to paint this and get out of here, and I'll show you what it looks like tomorrow. Okay, here we are the next day. Look at this paint. I'm loving this gold. The base clear system really shows off all the details, super detailed. I mean, look at this stamp right here, this 81 IAG, or is it JAG? Yeah, just, you can still see it through 5 layers, which is pretty awesome. And that's why I like this 2-part system. One thing I'll note is that I didn't use a lot of clear. I didn't want a lot of buildup right here where it torques down the cylinder head. So yeah, just 1 coat of clear. My friend Jim at JB, he mixed this up off of a cylinder head that I provided him that had a little bit of gold paint left. So yeah, if you're interested in it, it's Valspar. Binder is 802. Here's the pigments. It's mostly just this Y107 at 82 grams. Yeah, just continuing on with the cylinder head here, I put the studs in. You can see the longer ones here for the transmission breather. Yeah, I love the gold going on top of the exhaust manifolds there. And then this breather area here, a dash of gold in here. This is new to me. Usually I don't put that in there, but I think it's correct. I also refinished the breather cap here, kind of to match the cylinder head. I kind of like this, I don't know, just this semi-shine look. I'll just add that spraying paint can be super rewarding. You get this system in place and you get better and better at it. And it makes you feel like $1,000,000 when you get something right, and it really provides that motivation to go through and finish a job. Yeah, I love it. Okay, well that wraps it up for this episode of my Junk E-Type engine. As always, thanks for watching, guys. And yeah, if you have any tips, tricks, or trade secrets, feel free to comment. I go through a lot of it, I read it, and got some great feedback. So yeah, keep it coming, guys. I love it. Okay, thanks for watching. See you later, everybody. Bye-bye.